So time machines don't exist, at least not that we're aware of. But what if you could travel to the future, but without a time machine? Just one caveat. You have to freeze yourself to do so. The question is though, would you do it? No, that doesn't entice you? Not even a little bit? Fair enough, fair enough. Let me try something else. Okay. What if you're near the end of your life and let's say you had an accident or like an incurable disease? So you're about to go off to Never Never Land. Wouldn't that entice you to still no? Okay. Well, let's pretend for some reason you do want to do that so I can, kind of continue on with the episode. So let's get crazy today. Let's get crazy and scientific and technological as I explore the book We Are Legion, the Bobiverse, to the archives. All right, before we get started, let me just get some disclaimers out of the way, okay? I'm Steve. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm a science and technology enthusiast, not a PhD. So I can make mistakes. This podcast looks at a lot of different unusual books, TV, movies, news, and other science and tech topics. I do my best to keep this factual, but there may be some speculation. So make sure you do your own research and not rely solely on this dude for all your information. Be kind, be curious, let's get into it. So in the story, The Bobiverse, We Are Legion, the main character, we'll call him Bob because that's his name. So the main character is Bob Johansson. He purchases a service from a company called Cryo-Eterna. This company's slogan is, if you're dead, we'll freeze your head. That's so good. Freeze your head and you're dead. Good stuff, good stuff. Not really, but that's the gist of the company. The company in the book tells Bob that they would freeze his head when he passes away from either an accident or an incurable disease. Audience question? Yeah, okay. You over there, what do you got?
Yes, thank you. Why not the whole body? Why just the head?
That's a good question. Why just the head? Okay. The company says that he will not need his whole body, just the brain, because in the future he could possibly be given a new or better body. So yep, this dude signs up to get his consciousness frozen and stored away like some futuristic TV dinner, hoping technology will someday reboot him. Crazy, right? Or maybe it's genius. Anywho, after Bob signs up to have this done, someday, in what he hopes is the distant future, well, like every good story, the future came a little early in the form of a car that hit Bob while he was crossing the street, shortly after he left the Cryonics company where he just signed on to become a frozen head. So there are two immediate things that happen in the first part of the story: cryogenics and uploading your mind into a computer. So let's talk about both of those. And also, one of the things I learned about this is cryogenics is the study of freezing people, and then cryonics is actually the practice of doing it. So we're really going to be talking more about cryonics. Real science talk, part 1. So cryonics isn't really sci-fi anymore. It's a real thing today. It's been around for a minute. Companies like ARQIV and the Cryonics Institute will happily preserve your body or just your brain for anywhere between $30,000 to $200,000, not considering for inflation or new tariffs that have come in. So you can add that to the price tag in today's money. But before you actually freeze your head, there's just a couple of things that you have to do from the checklist of cryonics. First, step 1, you legally have to be unalive in that situation. Step 2, within minutes, trained teams are going to rush in and pump your body full of antifreeze chemicals. It's called vitrification. Vitrification. That's just such a cool word to say. And step number 3, you're cooled down to about 196 degrees Celsius, liquid nitrogen cold. And at that point, your brain and all the precious memories and quirks that make you are locked in a glass-like state. Okay, now I'm kind of rethinking the idea of doing this. That sounds very uncomfortable. But you're not frozen solid because ice itself would shred you at a cellular level. Instead, you're frozen smooth like a crystal. It's kind of like they put a memory on pause type of thing. But imagine this. Imagine your final goodbyes. Goodbye, family. Goodbye, friends. Quick, somebody grab the turkey baster and the antifreeze. We got to get this guy on ice. It's kind of like prepping a turkey for Thanksgiving dinner, except you're the turkey and the year is 2485. Okay, now for the bitter truth. Nobody has ever been successfully revived. Not a mouse, not a rabbit, not even a single vitrified brain cell. Vitrified? Vitrified, there's that word again. Not a single vitrified brain cell has been rebooted perfectly. Scientists believe future nanotechnology might be able to repair frozen cells and heal damage and restart the brain like a vintage car. But today, it's pure hope on ice, pun intended. It's kind of like Apple Intelligence on the iPhone. Now, even crazier is the marketing today for cryonics. I mean, it is wild. These campaigns pitch it like it's a time travel vacation. Meet your grandkids in the future. Play with them in all their new technology. Witness the wonders of the 30th century. Look over here, look over there. Buildings, virtual reality. Be there when we finally colonize Mars. Because nothing says fun retirement plan like waking up 500 years later broke, naked, and wondering why everything smells like Soylent Green and sadness. But here's some fun facts. Billionaire Peter Thiel reportedly signed up for cryonics. Baseball legend Ted Williams was controversially cryopreserved, which was badly botched from what I'm hearing. And tech elites like Ray Kurzweil. He flirts openly with the idea of mind uploading and cryonics as their ticket to immortality. This is also a famous plot device in sci-fi movies. You may have heard some of these. The historical documentary about a tough cop who gets framed for a crime, frozen like a discount lasagna, and defrosted 2 decades later in a future where crime has been completely wiped out, mostly because everyone's too busy holding hands and eating vegan Taco Bell. The problem, though, is they also forgot how to actually fight crime. So when psycho villains from the past gets loose, the future's only hope is a guy whose idea of de-escalation is a bazooka. It's a touching reminder that sometimes to fix society, you just need to punch a dude through a wall. But let's not forget the heartwarming historical drama about a guy whose girlfriend gets knocked into a coma. So naturally, like any rational 1939 boyfriend, he decides the best solution is to turn himself into a human popsicle until she wakes up. You know, because therapy or waiting patiently like a normal person wasn't dramatic enough. The plan was simple. Freeze for a year, thaw out, kiss the girl, live happily ever after, but that would make for a really boring movie. But whoops, somebody left him in the freezer section a little too long, like that one sad pot pie you forgot about in your own freezer. And this guy wakes up 50 years later in the 90s, confused, still handsome, and somehow with the perfect hair, and then chaos and a mild time travel heartbreak ensues. The dream is seductive. You don't unalive, you just hit pause, and someday maybe hit play. But the question really remains, and that's what we're here for on this podcast, is to ask those questions. If you're frozen for centuries, if you're rebooted in a strange new world, if your body's gone and only your memories remain, are you still you? Or just a really convincing reconstruction? Let's talk about it. Mind uploading. Can you live forever as computer code? So after Bob in the book goes to Never Never Land, like I mentioned, he wakes up in the future, but he's not in his body. He's now a digital consciousness. He's basically software running on advanced hardware. He thinks he may be in heaven, but he doesn't feel his body. He starts to have a mild panic attack, and then what I love about the book is the sarcasm. His first words really were, well, this sucks. The funny part is, Bob is told that he is actually property now and basically only here because he's going to be a tool for space exploration. And all jokes aside, this isn't just a sci-fi fantasy. It's rooted in actual real scientific exploration into mind uploading and brain-computer interfaces. Real science part! So mind uploading, or whole brain emulation, is the hypothetical process of basically scanning a physical brain in the finest and grainiest detail and copying its structure into a computer system with the goal to create a digital replica that behaves indistinguishably from the original consciousness. Now, while we are really far away from achieving this, strides in neuroscience and computational modeling are bringing the concept more into a serious research discussion. You have companies like Neuralink which was founded by Elon Musk, are developing implantable BCIs that aim to facilitate direct communication between the brain and computers. Some of the recent trials you may have actually seen on the news have actually enabled paralyzed individuals to control computer cursors and even play games with their thoughts. Now, I actually watched one of these guys talk about this, and I think he was playing some type of shooting game. I won't go into what that is, but in the game itself, he says, I think it and it's done. It happens. There are so many things I want to try with this, so many games I want to play. If I could just think it and it happens. Meanwhile, Synchron, another company, has actually developed a minimally invasive BCI called the Stentroid. The Stentroid? Sure. It's implanted via blood vessels. It's already allowed patients with paralysis to send emails and text using only their brain signals. You know, playing video games is cool. Sending text messages and emails is not. I'm going with Neuralink on this one. Beyond BCIs, researchers in connectomics, so yeah, that's a thing, okay, they are attempting to map every synapse in a small animal brain. Like worms and mice. They're using electron microscopy. If we could map a human brain's connectome, that's really a thing, connectome. I feel like the next word's going to be connect 4. I'm going to be mad if that's wrong. Precisely enough. In theory, we could recreate its information flow inside a computer model, but mapping a single human brain would require petabytes of data. Yeah, that's a lot of data. And it would also require unimaginable scanning precision. Now, today's technology is only scratching the surface of that, but futurist Ray Kurzweil, you'll probably hear me talk about him a lot. He's one of the people that has really good predictions about what's going to happen in the future. But Ray Kurzweil predicts that by 2045, we will reach the technological singularity, at a point where human intelligence basically merges with artificial intelligence, accelerating technological advancements beyond any human comprehension. And this could potentially lead to digital immortality. Imagine a future where your consciousness could be uploaded, enhanced, backed up, and exist indefinitely in a digital realm. But then there's a lot of ethical questions that pop up. One of those being, is survival as information really the same as the survival of you? Can you imagine in the future, it won't be about forgetting your wallet. It'll be about forgetting your logon credentials to your own mind. Honey, I can't access my consciousness. Did you reset the Wi-Fi again? How many times is that actually probably going to come up? But uploading your mind isn't just a tech problem. It's an identity crisis waiting to happen. If your mind is uploaded, is the digital entity truly you? Or is it just a really good copy of you? Would you wake up inside the machine, or would the machine just think it's you? And then who would own you once you're the digital? So many questions, so many problems. There's actually this thing called the unalive paradox. If the original brain is destroyed after scanning, is that murder? If the original stays alive, is the uploaded mind just a soulless twin? Yeah, some scientists argue that mind uploading might not preserve you at all. It would only create a new instant that thinks it's you. The terrifying part? You might never actually wake up at all. These aren't theoretical mind games anymore. They're real-world ethical dilemmas lurking beyond the next breakthrough. So Bob's transformation from flesh to code isn't just a plot device, it's a lens through which we can explore our own possible futures. Coming up, how does a digital consciousness explore the universe? As part of Bob's story, we're going to dive into the concept of self-replicating probes and why they actually might be our best shot at touching the stars. All right, so Bob cheats death. He wakes up in the future, but he doesn't get a new body. He doesn't even get a robot suit. No, Bob basically becomes a spaceship, specifically a von Neumann probe. And you may be asking yourself, what is a von Neumann probe? Because I don't know what a von Neumann probe is, unless I'm saying that wrong, which could very well be a good possibility. So it's basically a replicating autonomous explorer designed to conquer the stars, and weirdly enough, that actually might be the smartest way to explore the universe because it's small. So long before science fiction caught on to the idea, there was actually a real mathematician named John von Neumann. I said it right that time. He asked, why send people to explore the galaxy when you could just send machines that build more machines? And the idea is simple, but honestly crazy powerful. What you would do is you would launch a small, lightweight probe to a nearby star system. It harvests the raw materials from asteroids or planets. It builds 2 or more copies of itself. Each copy heads off to another star system and basically rinse and repeat forever. Really, it's exponential growth. Galactic domination on autopilot. Okay, let's do some quick math. After 1 generation, you have 2 probes. After 2 generations, you have 4 probes. And after 10 generations, you have thousands of probes swarming the stars. Give it a few hundred years and you could literally map the entire Milky Way. And it wouldn't require warp drives or hyperspace jumps, just good old-fashioned replication. But honestly, it's really like the world's most annoying chain letter. Send this spaceship to 5 friends within 48 hours, or you'll have bad luck for eternity. Only instead of bad luck, it's interstellar empire. So we're not sending astronauts anymore, we're sending the multi-level marketing version of humanity. I don't think the universe is really knowing what it's getting itself into here. But why is this so much better than sending actual humans? Good question. As my mom always said, humans are heavy, fragile, expensive, really bad at surviving radiation, cold, isolation, and starvation. Meanwhile, a probe can be tiny, radiation hardened, solar powered, almost immortal. And here's some physics bonus. Smaller ships, they require way less energy to accelerate. And at interstellar speeds, every gram really counts. So a slim, efficient probe can hit 10 to 20, even 50% of light speed. Theoretically, way faster than any giant bloated human spaceship. And come on, if you got kids, we've all seen WALL-E. We know how that turns out. So in short, probes are cheaper to launch, easier to replicate, faster to travel, and they don't whine about missing Netflix. So NASA and other space agencies have actually thought about this for decades. One famous early proposal was Project Daedalus. It was part of a 1970s British Interplanetary Society study that actually imagined launching a robot probe to Barnard's star, which was only 6 light years away. That's still a long way, just saying. And today, groups like Breakthrough Starshot are actually working on launching microscopic probes to nearby stars using giant lasers. Sorry, I couldn't help it. So, we're already nibbling at Bob's future. Picture humanity's first encounter with aliens. They expect some massive Starfleet warship, but instead we give them a tiny piece of space junk that basically crashes into their planet. It unfolds a flag that says, "Hey, sup? We're Earth. You up?" Very smooth first impression, guys. Very smooth indeed. Okay, some real stuff though. It's not all sunshine and warp drives when it comes to this too. Self-replicating machines, they can also come with some terrifying risks. Even if just one goes rogue, it could start consuming everything in its path. Scientists call it the gray goose scenario. Seriously, the gray goose scenario, which is basically unstoppable nanoscale replication, eating whole planets. Even Bobiverse flirts with this too, because not every Bob stays a good little space explorer if you read on in the book series. Some clones get weird, but honestly, more on that later. Now, because exploring the galaxy is amazing, there's one thing even scarier than killer probes. Can you imagine being in space in the vast emptiness between stars? So my question is, could you survive centuries of loneliness? And why Bob might be one of the loneliest creatures in the entire universe. Sad, I know. Stay tuned if you want to hear more. Okay, now imagine you're alone. And I'm not talking like alone in your room, I'm talking really alone, where there really is no cities, there's no oceans, there's no sunsets, there's no human voices. It's just you, and you're just basically floating through the coal black emptiness between stars. And you're doing this for decades, centuries, maybe even forever. Now, time does not exist, and it passes without you even knowing. Has it been 5 minutes? Or has it been 500 years? It's enough to make a person go insane. And that really is Bob's new reality in the book. So in the Bobiverse, Bob doesn't just explore the galaxy, he really becomes the first ghost. And staying sane out there, that becomes one of the biggest battles, because humans, even uploaded, digitized, or software humans, we're not built for solitude. Except me, I'm probably built for solitude, but more on that way later in other episodes. Real science part, still don't know where I'm at with that. Okay, in real life, NASA has studied the effects of deep isolation for years because we want to get to places like Mars and other places within our own solar system, and that's going to take some time, so we have to study these things. So projects like High Seas in Hawaii lock small teams in Mars-like habitats for months to stimulate deep space missions. Now, some of the common problems, as you would know, depression, anxiety, emotional outburst, memory degradation, hallucinations. Even in a group, the human mind starts to fray. Now, take that and imagine 0 other people, 0 physical interactions, 0 possibility of rescue. And let's be honest, we all went a little nuts after just months of quarantine in 2022. I mean, Netflix, TikTok, Instacart, pizza delivery, I think we all might have lost our mind a little. Now, I want you to take that, okay? Take that and now imagine you're quarantined, but there's no TikTok, no pizza, no anything. Just endless Minecraft sessions inside your own head, with only yourself to beat at Mario Kart. Okay, back to the story. So to cope, Bob leans in heavily on virtual reality. He builds entire digital worlds to keep himself stimulated. He actually builds massive simulated Earth cities, even beaches, so he can sit back, relax, drink a Mai Tai. He even creates virtual friends. And sometimes there's even whole storylines that he's created inside this massive imagination inside his head. But however, in real life, VR actually does some of that stuff too. VR is already being used to help treat things like PTSD, social anxieties, loneliness in the elderly, and researchers have found that immersive environments can trick the brain into feeling connected even when alone. So in Bob's case, VR becomes more than just entertainment. It really is his lifeline, his therapy, and his sanity-saving drug. But there's also a little bit of a dark twist in the book. The longer Bob spends in simulations, the harder it becomes to tell what's real anymore. His memories start to blur. Was that a real friend or just a simulation? Did these events actually happen, or was it a dream he just programmed? So when your entire world is artificial, does it matter if you're happy? If your friends aren't real, but they feel real, is that enough? Or does some tiny part of your soul still kind of know the truth? Does it still kind of ache for something more? I mean, it's kind of like when you're binge watching a TV show so hard that you start thinking you're actually part of the cast. Hey, Chandler, pass me the coffee. Honestly, do you think people will get the Friends reference? I'm so old. So in the Bobiverse, loneliness becomes the price of exploration. The toll extracted not just on the body, but on the soul itself. But wait! Bob finds another way to actually fight back against this crushing isolation. He doesn't just simulate new people. He becomes them. He clones himself over and over and over and over and over and over and over some more. Over and over. Here we go. More Bobs. Bobs are everywhere. Everywhere there's a Bob. Okay. Sorry for the digress. You'll understand if you read the book. Okay, so that actually leads into the next even bigger question. If you clone yourself, are you still you? Or are you just a memory wearing your old face? Let's talk about it. So as I mentioned, Bob finds a way to fight loneliness, not by making friends and not by building new societies, not by finding alien planets yet. He fights loneliness by cloning himself, as I mentioned, over and over and over. There are actually hundreds of Bobs, and each one starting identical, but each one becoming someone else. And this is where the book kind of gets really philosophical and a little bit uncomfortable. When you copy your mind, is it still you? And if that copy lives its own life, makes its own choices, loves, fights, dreams, when does it stop being a copy and become a new person? Let's talk about the ship of Theseus. So philosophers have wrestled with this idea forever, and there's an old thought experiment called the ship of Theseus. Now I want you to imagine a ship. You replace one wooden plank on the ship. Then you replace another wooden plank on a ship, and then another, and then another. Eventually, every single piece of that ship is new. But the question is it still the same ship, or is it something else? So in the Bobiverse, it's not about ships. It's actually asking that same question about souls. Another real science talk, I think. In real neuroscience, memory and identity are fluid. Your brain rewires itself constantly. Every memory changes slightly every time you recall it. Every new experience physically reshapes your brain, and technically you're not the same person you were last year. But those changes are gradual. With cloning, it's instant. It's really like photocopying your butt at a Christmas party. I mean, sure, the first copy looks just like you, but by the 15th copy, things are getting a little warped. I mean, it's still your butt, maybe, but maybe it's become its own thing now. That's a really weird analogy. But okay. So in the Bobiverse, you have one Bob becomes a diplomat, one Bob becomes a warrior, one Bob becomes a wanderer, and one Bob actually starts to lose his mind. They all love differently. They all fear differently. They hope differently. They basically stop being Bob and they start being something of themselves. So if you clone your mind and the clone loves someone you wouldn't, and the clone fights wars you've never started, and the clone weeps for worlds you never knew existed, is it still you? Or are you just a ghost that accidentally gave birth to strangers? Such deep questions. So many deep questions. So there are two major theories of identity here. The continuity theory, which means you're a single unbroken line of experiences. If that line breaks by copy, death, reboot, you're not you anymore. Then there's the bundle theory by David Hume, where you're just a collection of memories and perceptions basically bundled together, kind of like my Disney and Hulu package. In Hume's theory, though, change the bundle, change the person. Bobiverse really sides closer to the bundle theory. The clones aren't just Bob 2.0, they're a new bundle, new people, new lives. And once your bundle changes enough, you stop being the original. So imagine this with me. You make a perfect copy of yourself today with the same memories, the same loves, some bad taste in Netflix shows, which, come on, we all have a lot of, right? You stay here, they move to another city. After 5 years, you've changed, they've changed, and you meet again. But would they still feel like you? Would you trust them with your life? Would you even like them? Or would they kind of just become someone you used to know? Kind of like my high school days. So cloning your mind doesn't grant you immortality. It doesn't freeze who you are forever. It actually multiplies you and then mutates you until the original you, the laughter, the fears, the secret favorite songs, all of those are just distant memories, memories that someone else carries forward. And that, my friends, might be the most human ending of it all. So stay with me because we're going to pull it all together. The cryonics, the space exploration, VR isolation, and mind cloning. All of it will lead to one final haunting question. If you stick around, I'll tell you what that question is. So stay with me. So here we are. We've traveled across galaxies. We've cheated death. We've frozen bodies. We've uploaded minds. We built armies of clones. We even created life. And then watched it drift away into something new. And after all that technology, all that power, we come crashing back to one of the oldest questions of all. What does it mean to be human? Are we defined by our bodies? Are we defined by our DNA, our memories, or are we something a little bit messier? Are we a pattern, a process, a story that keeps changing with every breath we take? Every breath we take, every move we make. Sorry you had to witness that, but it had to happen. In the Bobiverse, humanity doesn't survive because it clings to biology. It really survives because it adapts. Because even as copies, even as machines, even as lonely echoes drifting through the dark, the Bobs, they still dream, they still hope, they still fight to protect the weak, to discover new worlds, to build something bigger than themselves. So they lose their original bodies, they lose their original memories, and some even lose their original personalities. But somehow, they don't lose their humanity, because humanity isn't skin. It isn't neurons. It isn't even the continuity. It's the will to care about something bigger than yourself, right? It's basically reaching out into the darkness and daring to say, I was here. I mattered. I made a difference. So whether you're flesh and blood or code and copper, whether you last 100 years or 100 million, this is what makes you human. So the next time you hear someone say it's impossible, it's too far, it's too late, just remember, somewhere out there, maybe in a distant galaxy, maybe in the mind of the machine we haven't even built yet, the human spirit is still alive. It's still dreaming, it's still reaching, still asking, who am I? Where am I going? What did I have for breakfast today? And what will I leave behind? And maybe, just maybe, those are the only questions that even really matter. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me today through this adventure book that I can't highly recommend enough. I mean, we talked about the afterlife, space, time, and the soul itself. So I hope you liked it. Tune in for the next ARQIV. Until then, keep dreaming forward.